two pieces of legislation are the Natural Resources Fund and the Local Content Legislation. Those two words, the average Guyanese will be hearing those words coming up time and again. And you'll ask the question, of course, what in particular does this mean? But more importantly, how does this translate into a meaningful benefit for me as an average citizen or for me as a small business or a micro business owner? I'll start with the first that I would have mentioned, the Natural Resources Fund Act. Now, the Natural Resources Fund essentially acts as an account that petroleum revenues will go into. Now, when one has an account in a personal sense, and when one has income, you can either do one of two things with it. You can either save it or you can either spend it. Now, the account is set up such that money can be saved, which of course then the money that's saved will be invested on the international market to earn some amount of returns. But then a component of that money will also be spent, and spent on infrastructure projects, spent on government social programs, spent in a variety of sectors, both social and economic sectors, where materially the average citizen will begin to see the benefit. Based on the signals that have been sent from the government, I anticipate that some of this money will be spent in the social sector, which includes healthcare, it includes education, and some of it also will be spent in spurring the economic sectors forward, so supporting the productivity and the growth of agriculture, manufacturing, and other sectors which have traditionally been the backbone of the Guyanese economy. As well as I expect, thirdly, it ought to be spent on infrastructure. We're already beginning to see some of it, which is having a material benefit on the welfare of Guyanese people. For example, the Diamond Bypass Road. We are going to see shortly that 4-lane road heading all the way to Diamond. We are also going to see the new bridge across the Demerara River. And those are some of the infrastructure projects, major infrastructure projects that will improve the livelihood of each Guyanese citizen. The local content legislation delineates sectors, identifies sectors and subsectors in the Guyanese economy, which essentially in the oil and gas sector, once procurement has to be done for those services, it has to be done from a local. Now, each sector or subsector has identified a percentage that has to be procured locally. So you will find that some of the sectors, they are going to say, for example, legal services. If an oil and gas company wants to procure legal services, then 90% of all the legal services that they utilize ought to be done by local attorneys by the end of 2022. When one thinks about it, companies that are here in Guyana who are 100% Guyanese owned, who have senior managers, who have their staff, who are all Guyanese, they are now placed in a position of competitiveness with an international company who may be in Guyana because they must be given first consideration in accordance with the local content legislation. So what it does is that it sends a very clear signal to the companies that you must procure locally, but it also gives a good indicator for Guyanese companies that, hey, those persons who want to get into business, and I have a company and maybe I'm doing some sort of service, let me maybe begin to diversify some of my offerings to begin to cater for the oil and gas industry.